Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another review. Today, I'm here to be talking about the newest found footage movie called Dream Eater. Now, this is a movie that I heard about somewhere on social media, maybe way earlier in the year, like probably maybe the beginning of the year, or maybe even late last year, perhaps. I saw the poster for it somewhere, and I was like, that is intriguing, along with just the name in general. I was like, that is really intriguing. So, I kind of time went by and I kind of forgot about it. And then I think I don't remember what movie I was at. I was at some movie and they played the trailer for it. And great trailer, by the way. The trailer was only like a minute, if that. And it was downright creepy, like super, super creepy. Enough to where I was like, I think that is the movie that I remember seeing the poster for back when. So obviously when I got home, I looked it up and saw that it had an October release date, and I was like, hell yes, and thank you God that it played around me. This this was a movie that going into, I was like, based on the trailer, I was like, I'm actually kind of scared to go into this movie. And I'm somebody, I don't get scared all that often by stuff because I think I'm just so desensitized because I've seen so much horror and so much stuff throughout the horror genre that I'm kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. But just on the trailer, this movie alone had me worried to go in the theater because I was like, this is going to be interesting. And for the majority of it, leading up to the start of the movie, I was by myself in the theater. So I was like, oh my God. So this is going to be an extra layer of that on top of it. But thankfully, I think two other people came in just before it started, and they kind of had the same reactions as I did throughout the movie. So it was kind of a cool shared experience. But this movie is essentially just two people throughout the whole movie. It's a very isolated movie, and given probably what their budget was, I can totally understand why. But I think if you're really creative, you were able to do so much on a small budget, and that's why I preach and preach and preach that I wish movies, especially of certain genres, wouldn't be given these massive multi-million-dollar budgets. I mean, it is nice because you're able to do certain things with that, but at the same time, when you have such a small, tight budget, the things that you were able to pull off is really incredible. And if you look at some of the horror classics that had absolutely zero budget, some of the stuff they were able to do, even like today, holds up so well versus something like CGI that in a few years you're like, yeah. And this movie was only shot in like 8 or 9 days, and essentially the actors that are in the movie are the people that wrote it and directed it and starred in it. Because I think one of the main actor in this movie pretty much said that some of the stuff in this movie was so physical that they really couldn't afford a named actor because obviously, insurance and liability and all that stuff like that. So this feels like a huge passion project, and you can tell that they put a lot of what they had into this movie. But essentially, this movie follows a couple who go to this cabin. It's almost like in the middle of nowhere, and it's of course there's a snowy blizzard outside, so they're kind of trapped here. But you learn along the way that Alex, our main character, is having these night terrors and these sleepwalking episodes, and they progressively are getting worse, and his girlfriend is slowly trying to figure out what's going on and, trying to get him to go see a doctor. And then while all that's going on, she kind of does her own investigation into him in particular and talking to a particular doctor and whatnot, and that leads, and uncovers a bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to leave it at that. But this movie is actually really creepy. I think how I described it when I saw it last night was that this is a really good movie to where if you were at home and you just threw this movie on at like 1 or 2 in the morning and just cut all the lights out and really were just laser focused on a movie like this, I think you would genuinely have a very creepy time. I think the isolation adds something to it as well because they're in the middle. They're in this cabin essentially in the middle of nowhere, and they're snowed in. Like it's like a blizzard every day, so it's like they can't go anywhere. And the snow itself creates this isolation thing to the movie, and it adds almost another layer to it, which is another reason I think I said in my Black Phone review that I love horror movies set in the snow because I feel like the snow alone. It plays almost like a character in the movie and really adds something to it. And in this movie, I feel like it really, really hammers home that feeling of isolation and you're alone and just no matter what, you're stuck. I think our two main actors do a really, really good job with what they're given. And for a movie that I've always said that is kind of set in one location, it's almost like a bottleneck movie. And if you were stuck in one location with certain people, or the other type of movies that I like where it's like one location where it's just a character in a car or two characters in a car throughout the whole thing, you have to have a very interesting story or otherwise you will lose the audience. And I feel like this movie has a very interesting story. It's obviously it's a story that's been done before. I mean, it's some kind. I'm trying to tiptoe around everything without giving anything away, but it's something that's been done before, obviously. But I think it's done in a really unique way because the incorporation of sleepwalking along with the other stuff that they kind of intertwine with it. I don't know if that stuff really exists or if that's something they kind of made up. There was a one part in this movie, not that I'm comparing this movie to said movie in any way, but there was a part when I was watching this movie when something happened that I was like, it almost gave me the movie Sinister. It gave me those type of vibes for a second. Again, without saying anything or giving anything away, but there was almost a part or an element in this movie that really made me think of that. And again, it might be one of those things that they might have pulled inspiration from that or something. I'm not 100% sure. So, and this is one of those movies that does those typical found footage tropes throughout it. If you're a big found footage fan, you've seen enough movies to where you know that there's all these tropes. The same with any horror movie or action movie or whatever. There's always those classic tropes throughout the movie. And yeah, this movie has them, of course, but I think the story alone is effective enough that you kind of forget about that as it goes along. You're kind of like, this thing is intriguing enough and very creepy in its own way to where you kind of just let all that go. Because I know found footage isn't for everybody. I'm a huge found footage fan. Again, I talk about it more in my VHS Halloween review that none of you have seen yet. You will be seeing that on Halloween. But I love found footage movies. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen a lot of bad ones, but I've also seen a lot of really good ones, and I would really consider this a really good one. I think this whole story element, like I said, of the sleepwalking and what that brings to the table adds this whole other eeriness to it, because it's like there's always that thing of like you're never supposed to wake a sleepwalker, and when people are sleepwalking, you really don't know what they're going to do, and this movie takes that to an extreme to where you're like, you know what? I don't want nothing to do with sleepwalking. You're like, it's something I'm glad I don't do, and you're like, after watching this, you're like, thank God that I don't do it. There is some genuinely really good scares in this movie. Like, it really ramps up tension and really, really lets you stew in it for a while before it'll finally scare you. And I think because of that, it makes the scares all more effective as the movie goes on, because as the movie progresses, obviously his sleepwalking gets worse and worse, so that progresses, as well, which leads to even more tension, because every single night that something is going on, you have no idea what to expect. You have no idea where something is going to come from, what's going to happen, or anything of that nature, and it is so effective. It was even effective to the enough that after the movie was over, when I got up to leave, the other people that was in the theater, they were already gone, but I guess one of their chairs stayed down to when I got up to start walking around the thing. The chair flipped up and literally scared the shit out of me. I even really like the way that they do the music or the score throughout this movie. There is a particular, like, almost like a theme that comes throughout the movie that has this whistle to it. And you hear it throughout the movie that almost becomes like another character in itself, because as the movie goes on, there's a certain character that starts to use that whistle, and it adds so much just creepiness to it. I think the way it's done with certain scenes, it is so creepy. So kudos to the people involved with the music. I think they did such a great job of mixing it into whatever's going on in a particular scene. And there's even scenes where they use it to where nothing scary is going on, but it also builds that tension of something is just not right here. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, there's just a scene where the main character is walking outside, and it's broad daylight outside, and they use that little snippet, that little score right there, and how they use it, it just kind of affects the movie overall. I'm not 100% sure how Eli Roth found out about this movie. I just know that he's done some promoting for it, but he saw it and was, put it under his umbrella, and it was able to kind of put it out as Eli Roth Presents. And Eli Roth, I'm hit or miss on. He's done some movies that I do enjoy and done some that I'm not the biggest fan of. So, but the fact that he saw something in this movie and he even thought it was legit scary. I know a lot of people, it's the same with me. Some are huge Eli Roth fans and others are just like, nah, he's just not for me. I totally understand it. So I don't think of him as being heavily involved in this movie because he's really not. Like I said, he just kind of saw it and was able to kind of get it out, and stuff like that. This is, pretty much just a straight independent movie, and I think from what I read was even the people involved in this movie, they put up their own money to even get this movie made. Now, with all that being said, I feel like there are some scenes throughout this movie that you will have to kind of suspend your disbelief to kind of make it through it. Like, for example, there is a lot of scenes where his girlfriend is the one that keeps finding him, sleepwalking and whatnot. And obviously she's the one that's trying to help him and is told to film these things as they go on to make sure things don't get progressively worse. And of course, as the movie goes, it gets progressively worse. And I'm going to tell you right now, by night 2, I would have been gone. I would have been long gone. I'd be like, hey, buddy, it was fun. We tried, but you were on your own, especially the fact that they build this story up around him that it's almost he's really hesitant to get help because he doesn't really believe, what's going on with him. He's like, oh, it's just sleepwalking. And I'd be like, buddy, you going to watch this footage? And hell no. So after that, I'd have been like, between that and the stuff, especially as it gets worse, I wouldn't give a shit how much snow is on the ground outside. I would be gone. I would be gone in a absolute heartbeat. There is absolutely no way that I'm sticking around for this. I don't care how much I love the person. I mean, I'll try to support you and do everything I can, and it looks like in the movie she's trying to do that, and he's still resistant for it, so I'd be like, you know what? Again, it's been fun, but I'm out. So I feel like you kind of got to block that part out of your brain, because otherwise you're going to be like, lady, just get the fuck out of there. And I feel like there was 2 other people that was in my screening at one point really did that, because there's a part where she's like, every night he's gone out of the bed and she's having to go look for him to figure out where he's at, and that does a great job of building, like I said, building that suspense and building that tension throughout. But there's also a lot of those things where as it goes on, you're like, why? Just let him go. Just let him do his thing. Again, I get it, because you're supposed to, she's supposed to really care for this person and want to try to get him help, and she's told to film all this stuff, so that's why she's doing it. But as a human being, I'd be like, you know what? Nah, I'm going back to bed. So this is one that I would highly recommend checking out, probably especially for the Halloween season. It was pretty effective in theaters, but I don't know. I have this gut feeling where I think it might be really effective at home as well. I feel like if you, like I said, you could get a bunch of people together and like maybe around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, turn this movie on, cut all the lights out. Same with you or you and your significant other. I feel like it could be one of those movies you kind of watch in bed super late at night, and it really have that a creepiness effect to it. So if you are looking for like a really good creepy movie to check out for the month of October, I would recommend this one. I wish I could talk more about the sleepwalking aspect of it and the stuff that it gets into, because I think it's a really unique kind of story with that, but I can't say anything about it because I don't want to give anything away what's going on with it. I want everybody to go and experience it for themselves and enjoy it and have nothing ruined for them, so I can't talk about it as much as I would like to. But I would recommend checking it out. I think it's got a limited theatrical run, and from what I understand, it's playing like super late show times, which, again, is perfect for a movie like this anyway. But if you want to wait till it comes home, that's perfectly fine, because it should be on VOD. It'll probably be after Halloween before it comes on VOD, but regardless, even if you're looking for a movie to watch like on a Friday night or something you want to get scared, I would recommend throwing this one on. This is just another one of those movies that I knew was going to be a small independent movie, and I love to support independent movies. I know a lot of the times they just get, completely overshadowed by bigger movies that are coming out, and a lot of them don't get the recognition they deserve. So this is one that I did, really want to check out, not only from just the name alone intrigued me, but like after seeing the trailer, I was like, that thing looks genuinely creepy. I think I showed the trailer to my mom, and she went, "Oh my god." So this is one of those movies that from this group of people, if they stick to doing stuff like this, I would be very curious what they would do next, and what they would do maybe if they ended up getting a little bit of a bigger budget, maybe a little bit more time. I'd be very curious to see what they could do. You know, obviously don't have to have a massive budget, but like maybe a little bit more of a budget than what they had for this movie. I'm curious to see what they do next, and what where they go. But also, like I said, depending on who you are, if you like found footage movies, I would check this one out. If you're not a found footage movie at all, I would probably steer clear of it, because found footage does not work for a lot of people, and a lot of times found footage just kind of gets on people's nerves. So just know who you are when it comes to found footage movies. For me, this was another awesome like found footage gem that I'm happy that I stumbled across. So for me, it's a win for me. But like I said, just know who you are when it comes to found footage movies overall. But thank you, everybody. That's my review for Dream Eater. If you've seen the movie, please comment below and let me know what you thought about it. And if this is the review you're finding me on, please come on over to the channel and check out all my other 2025 reviews that I've done so far. I've got a pretty good list built up. I'll leave a card somewhere right here. And please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That way I can see all of you in the next one. Thank you so much.